Vivek was very focused on two things about Nikki Haley, both of which we reported on. One is her obsession with advocating wars, and the other is how tied she is to corporate money now. Let's listen to this.
Megyn, I think there's a time and place for everything. We need somebody in the White House who absolutely is going to be a fighter when it counts. And I did say that there were some good people on that stage in that third debate. Doug Burgum was on that stage at that time, and I'll say that jokingly. Ron DeSantis is a good person, too. I want to go back, though, to Nikki Haley's comment from earlier that she is somehow not responding to the will of these donors. Nikki, you were bankrupt when you left the UN. After you left the UN, you became a military contractor. You actually started joining service on the board of Boeing, whose back you scratched for a very long time, and then gave foreign multinational speeches like Hillary Clinton is. And now you're a multimillionaire. That math does not add up. It adds up to the fact that you are corrupt. And when I said they were bought and paid for, I meant the Republican establishment, not the Democratic establishment. Now you have Reid Hoffman, the person who's effectively George Soros Jr., funding lawsuits across this country against Donald Trump to keep him off the ballot, funding left-wing causes. We discovered this week that he is one of Nikki Haley's largest supporters. Larry Fink, the king of the woke industrial complex, the ESG movement, the CEO of BlackRock, the most powerful company in the world, now supporting Nikki Haley. And to say that doesn't affect her is false, because it's after that meeting later that day that she says that every American needs to be doxxed by having their ID, their government-issued ID, tied to what they say on the internet. So I think that this is far more corrupt than I even imagined when I entered politics. But I will say this. It is going to take a leader from the outside.
All right, so that really does summarize Nikki Haley. And this is the kind of politics that Republican voters showed that they hated by rejecting all of those candidates who were getting money from these kinds of special interests, from the special interests that have owned and ruled the Democratic Party for many years now. And that's why the media loves Nikki Haley, precisely because she advocates those establishment views. Now, here was an exchange on foreign policy that was also incredibly revealing and embarrassing and humiliating for Nikki Haley.
I want to say one thing about the tie to Ukraine, if I may. So foreign policy experience is not the same as foreign policy wisdom. I want everybody at home to note that I was the first person to say we need a reasonable peace deal in Ukraine. Now a lot of the neocons are quietly coming along to that position, with the exceptions of Nikki Haley and Joe Biden, who still support this, what I believe is pointless war in Ukraine. And I think those with foreign policy experience, one thing that Joe Biden and Nikki Haley have in common is that neither of them could even state for you 3 provinces in eastern Ukraine that they want to send our troops to actually fight for. Look at that. This is what I want people to understand. These people have, she has no idea what the hell the names of those provinces are, but she wants to send our sons and daughters and our troops and our military equipment to go fight it. So reject this myth that they've been selling you, that somebody had a cup of coffee stint at the UN and then makes $8 million after, has real foreign policy experience. It takes an outsider to see this through. Look at the blank expression. She doesn't know the names of the provinces that she wants to actually fight for. And there's her puppet masters right there. The donors right there that are playing her like the puppet master.
Hold on.
That is so true. It has been driving me crazy, this idea that Nikki Haley is some kind of great foreign policy mind, that she's a serious foreign policy scholar, she has foreign policy chops, when he actually challenged Chris Christie on that as well. Both of whom are fanatical supporters of this idea that we have to fund the Ukraine war. Even Zelensky's closest allies are abandoning him. Even they're abandoning this war. They're going to the Western press and dumping on him constantly, calling him an authoritarian and delusional. There was just a vote in the Congress that refused to enact the $60 billion more that Biden wants for Ukraine. We're going to do our show tomorrow night on the complete collapse of this narrative in Ukraine. And yet again, all these people that were constantly told are foreign policy experts, the ones who supported the war in Iraq, the ones who supported regime change in Libya and Syria, the ones who supported this war in Ukraine, all of which have failed because they can't go to other countries and change them. They know nothing about these countries, including the names of the provinces that Russia currently controls. All they know is that when there's a war presented, their big donors want them to fund it because it goes into the pocket of Boeing and General Dynamics and Raytheon that have their hands in every part of Washington, in every part of our politics, and especially around inside the back of Nikki Haley, who is their puppet. And they made her a very wealthy woman. If you go and look at the sources of her personal income, it's all military contractors, war think tanks, and pro-Israel groups. That really is who just paid her. It's just a fact. And every one of her views that she advocates aligns perfectly with those donors. Now you can ask that eternal question. Does she have these views because they're funding her, or are they funding her because she has these views? And at some point, it really makes no difference. She just morphed into the establishment. She has every view that the establishment has. And one of Vivek's lines that was actually quite good is she will send your sons and daughters to any war that comes up as long as it enables her to buy a bigger home. That is how Washington really works. These people who are called foreign policy experts, who are paid so much money by think tanks and arms industry and who go on the media to talk about these wars, the only thing they have in common, the only requirement to be a foreign policy expert is that you cheerlead every American war, every proposed American war. And the minute you stand it up and object to one that has bipartisan support, you are eliminated from the realm of foreign policy expert or serious foreign policy thinker. What did she do to justify the notion that she's a foreign policy expert? She went and raised her hand at the UN to vote for the things that she was told by the State Department to vote for or against. She wasn't negotiating anything. She wasn't analyzing foreign policy. She was at the UN, raising her hand to vote. That's it. And the fact that she can't name any of the provinces in Ukraine, nor can Chris Christie, even though they insist that our welfare as a country depends on sending billions and billions and billions more with no safeguards to Kiev, shows what a fraud this all is. And nobody is a more representative or illustrative face of this fraud, of the establishment fraud, than Nikki Haley. Nobody. Chris Christie is only there to sell books. He unveiled his new book tonight. He gets to go on TV all the time because he hates Trump. That's the requirement to go on TV. He'll be put on CNN and have your book reviewed in the Washington Post as long as you talk constantly about how much you hate Trump. That's what he's doing there. The Republican Party hates him. Megyn Kelly told them that, citing polling data. But Nikki Haley is the last hope of the Republican establishment. They did abandon Ron DeSantis for the most part. They're putting all their money in her because they want to ensure that establishment ideology will prevail no matter whether the Republicans win or the Democrats win. That's really, ultimately, the supreme goal of the establishment, is to make sure that it doesn't matter what the outcome of our elections are. They win in either case. And this is who is there to ensure that that's the case. Thanks for watching this clip from System Update, our live show that airs every Monday through Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on Rumble. You can catch the full nightly shows live or view the backlog of episodes for free on our Rumble page. You can also find full episodes the morning after they air across all major podcasting platforms, including Spotify and Apple. All the information you need is linked below. We hope to see you there.